Welcome everybody to the meeting. Glad to see so many people here tonight. This is getting pretty nice. We've been getting bigger and bigger crowds every month. So welcome to everybody. We're going to start off tonight a little bit different than we normally do. Don't know if everybody has read their email about the guild, but one of our members has passed away this last week, and he was a big part of this guild. He's been a lot of stuff, as you can see on the slide. We do have a few people that is going to come up, and we're going to talk about Mr. Watson.
I'm Dan Coleman, and Wayne was about my best friend. We spent a lot of time on the highway together, back and forth from Springfield and Branson, and a few other long trips. We worked on the equipment at the shop, procured almost all the equipment at the shop. Linda made a comment that she didn't know anybody didn't like him, and I could probably refute that once or twice, but it all boils down to some people struggle with dealing with people who were management type people or people who were driven. But sooner or later you figure, well, the guy's my boss, I'm going to listen to him, or you finally figure out the guy's got a plan and I either need to agree with his plan or I need to get out of the way. And then we're Midwesterners. We don't warm up to East Coast people very well. That's just the way we are. They talk too fast, they're a little rude at times, or in your face. But see, I got past all that because I shared windshield time with him. And, I learned that you like dogs, Wayne's your friend. If you were military, Wayne's your friend. If you were a pilot, you were a real good friend. You like chicken, hands down, you're the best friend, He loved fried chicken. And I don't think we would have the shop that we have if it wasn't for Wayne, because he kept pushing. Wayne would like for us to have found a building the size of this room, because that's what Kansas City has, and he's seen what 450 members can do. 3 saw stops, and 2 or 3 planers, half a dozen joiners, enough clamps to fill 3 pickup trucks. Chuck Saunders has done a wonderful job out there in the Kansas City shop, and Wayne's been there and talked to Chuck. And I know Chuck personally. I vacationed with him.
Up on his shirt.
That would have been great for Wayne. He wanted us to succeed and have a nice shop. But Wayne really did want to mentor. I don't know if you know his background. He's a helicopter pilot in Vietnam and Saudi Arabia, mostly, and then he was a commercial pilot after that. But he'd set heavy equipment, did some logging and transmission lines stuff, air conditioning stuff on the Coors plant in Denver, all kinds of goofy stuff like that. He's led a charmed life. In an accident, lost his spleen on Loughborough several years back. When he was in the military, he took an RPG through the door of the helicopter, lodged under his seat, and never went off. So for fixed wings and helicopters. And that's where he kind of, I guess, got the bug a little bit. Wayne was really loved planes, hand planes. I mean, he got rid of everything that was a duplicate at auction last year. And I was in his basement this afternoon, and Lord, there's still 100 planes, and none of them duplicates. They're all different. They might be the same size, they may all look the same, but they've all got a different number on them or a different whatever, size. And he loved hand tool woodworking. he really took to carving, teaching that stuff. You know, Dave's going to comment about some stuff that he made with Wayne in class. He enjoyed taking people that knew nothing and starting them out and cutting a dovetail. You know, that's where we differed. You know, if it doesn't scream, throw sawdust, and you don't need earplugs, I'm not really interested in it. But he liked hand woodworking, and can't deny that. I think we're going to miss him. If you can show up on Monday evening, visitation is going to be 4 to 8 Monday evening, and then the funeral is 10 o'clock Tuesday morning, and internment is right after that at Jefferson Barracks. Working right now trying to get the Patriot Guard to participate too. Families flying in from Florida, Pennsylvania. He was from Philly, and he made a trip back there at least once a year. His last one was 2 months ago for his niece's son's Eagle Scout Award meeting. He adored his 2 nieces. I mean, just adored those kids and their kids. You know, he'd take them to the Butterfly House and places like that. And it's a side you guys didn't get to see that I got to see of Wayne. You know, his gruffness and everything just disappears. You get him talking about dogs. You know, his lab from the Humane Society, 2 families returned this dog before Wayne got him. You know, and Linda drug home a little dog yelper that's blind. Stuff like that. And when I went out of town when my pup was young, Wayne insisted that I not take him anywhere but to his house. And he had to be doctored a little bit, and Wayne doctored that dog every day that I was gone. And same situation, right now, today, I was supposed to be in Detroit. And Wayne insisted last week that we should go on a vacation, and I should let him have both dogs, and one dog's recovering from knee surgery. So it didn't make any difference to Wayne. You know, bring the dog over, he'll be just fine. So, you know, that's the part of Wayne that I got to see on a regular basis. You know, he would come over just to play with the dogs sometimes. You know, and I wish all of you could have seen it and experienced the same Wayne that I did. You know, I met him before I retired. I've been retired 14 years this month. And I met him, I went to 2 or 3 meetings before I retired. Mark Koritz gave one presentation, Wayne gave the other of the first 2 meetings I went. And at that meeting, he asked me after where I lived, and he volunteered to pick me up every day to come to a meeting if I wanted to. His generosity, I don't know anybody that has generosity like Wayne has. You know, his monthly play money was his disability check, and he spent it every month. I can guarantee you, he spent it every month. He would, we'd go to an estate sale, and I'd buy $12 worth of stuff, and I got him into metalworking, and that's worse than woodworking for tool purchases. I'll tell you that now. I'd spend $12, and he'd spend $120 or $85, and then he'd blame me for him spending the money. So, you know, but the man, to me, I'm glad I saw what you guys did. And while he may rub you the wrong way, because he has expectations. You know, I rub my grandson the wrong way because I have expectations. And I expect those expectations to be met. And it disappoints my heart when they're not. Well, I'm not sure you disappoint Wayne's heart when you don't meet his expectations. But if you were ever offended by Wayne, it's because he had expectations, because he cared about you. See you Monday or Tuesday if you want to join us.
My name's David Gronefeld, and Wayne was mentoring me to as the assistant shop manager, and I'd just like to mention some things about Wayne as similar to Dan. I first met Wayne about 10 years ago. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he was the guild president when I started attending the meetings. I believe he sold me this hat right here. I do believe. He was quite a salesman. Wayne had many accomplishments and interesting experiences. He flew helicopters during combat in Vietnam. He was shot down in a ship on loan from a Korean general. He was told not to mess up that plane or that helicopter. He worked in Saudi Arabia. He constructed ski lifts in Colorado, at Vail, Breckenridge, Aspen, and probably others. Lifted lumber for logging operations. He met and worked with high-ranking officials at the Pentagon on projects for McDonnell Douglas. While all these accomplishments are impressive, perhaps the most enduring accomplishment, at least from my perspective, is his ability to teach, coach, and mentor others. He was a flight instructor for the military, lead pilot for the private firm that he worked for. He guided and mentored new pilots to master the skills needed for a dangerous and complicated job. For the Guild, he also provided leadership and mentorship. He was giving of his time to teach several classes. I attended a couple of his classes, and I am forever grateful for his willingness to share his knowledge and time with me. He was always very generous with his time and his insights. The items I brought today are a result of my time in his fundamental woodworking class. It's a tool tote that we made first, which is I have on top, and then the tool chest, which we made as a second project. His knowledge, wit, and mentorship will be greatly missed, and I believe a part of Wayne's spirit will live on in these items that I constructed and all the items that all his other students have constructed as well. Wayne touched many lives, and he will be dearly missed. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. That was great. There we go. Okay, just a few things. Just remember that we're recording the meeting for people who can't be here and for the YouTube. So if you have any questions or anything else, so we can get it on, we can get it on the recording. Please use the microphone in the middle of the room. We still need another camera person, so we don't have to grab somebody out of the audience like we did tonight to help us run the camera. There's a sign-up sheet on the front table for everybody that's going to go to the picnic on September 10th. I thought we were going to have a sign-up sheet for food, but I think that got changed. So ignore that part of it. And next slide. New members. I know we have one that I know of. Come on up and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm very new to anything regarding woodworking or carpentry, but I have a lot of things that projects I would like to start working on. I enjoy making things in general, painting, crafts, art, all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to find a community to get involved with so I'm not learning things on my own. So happy to be here.
Welcome. Any other new members that I missed?
Hi, my name's Scott. I've been doing woodworking since 1978 when I found some plans in a Popular Mechanics for a oak campaign desk that I built and still have. I really enjoy making big pieces of wood into a lot of sawdust. So mostly I build furniture and putter around the house a lot, do a lot of little projects around the house, that sort of thing, and interested. I do my own electric and plumbing and all that kind of stuff as well. I was Chief Information Officer for HPE Corporation, which was an architectural engineering, design, and construction firm. We built hospitals. So I had a lot of really good people like help me design my dust collection system, and really helped, and also got very heavily involved in CAD. So every one of my projects, I probably spend more time designing it in the CAD system and laying it all out and making it perfect on digitally before I even start putting a tool to the wood. So I got a new project. I'm going to build some cubbies for my son-in-law and daughter and granddaughter, and just bought the wood yesterday. So my first project in 2 years.
All right.
So thank you. I'm really
Welcome.
enjoying this so far.
Thanks. Good. Oh, here we got another visitor. Come on down.
My name is Paul Kennedy. I'm an art teacher at River High School. I'm not a woodworker. I'm not a musician, but I've been building instruments with my students, and I guess in the show and tell I'll show you that, and I don't want to take any more time, but there you go. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, upcoming events. Next month, we are going to have the luthier, Joe Mindell. I think I pronounced that right. That one's going to be a real interesting class because I know both Bill and I are making instruments. Picnic is September 10th. We're going to meet at, the picnic is at Shaw Park in Clayton. And then we'll figure out from there how many people we're going to send over to the Art Museum for the tour. It all depends on how many people show up because the Art Museum can't take everybody at one time. So we'll figure out how many show up and when we're going to go over to the Art Museum. And then in September, Jay Knopfsinger is going to give us a demonstration on his chest he built from the Hepplewhite design. That if you were here a few months ago and saw the pictures of it, it is beautiful. And it looks really heavy. So hope we're downstairs for that meeting. And then in October, we're going to have a roundtable discussion about setting up a small shop in small areas. So that one ought to be really good too. Upcoming classes, August 6th, Adam Connor is going to do decorative wire inlay. He showed us this, I'm guessing about a year ago, and it was something really neat. So he's going to be doing that August 6th. Did I just go out? Then August 13th, Jay is going to be doing a shorty bandsaw class. It's early in the morning and it goes about an hour. Dave Windus is going to be doing a small box with splintered mines on September 25th. October 1st, I'm going to be doing a beginning turning class. So if anybody wants to learn anything about turning, it's a good 8-hour class. And then on November 9th, Brad Bernard has got 5th and the 6th is going to be doing a veneer jewelry box. And all of this is on the website that you can sign up for. Next slide. Our toy drive. I know we got a lot of toys today. Rich, how many toys did we collect today? 260 toys today. Oh, that's great. Wayne, want to say anything about the toy? Sounds like you've been having a good turnout.
Yeah, Christmas toy program, we've got about 600 toys complete, and we should hit 1,000 by Christmas time. Got a group of people working on it, some other people work from home, a lot of paint going on toys.
All right. And Tom.
This This is one of the new entries for the Home Sweet Home Cable project. Home Sweet Home is a charity that provides furniture, home furnishings for people that have changed living conditions. So we've been building, this is probably about number 30. We built about 30 cables in the last 2.5 months. That's a good program. It's wood, 85. We provided wood. All you have to do is provide, the time of the shop, talent, and your tools. So there is wood available. I've got models in the back and front, and there's more out in the build shed. And if you're interested, please see me after the meeting. And, this one, Dan Linder's going to take home. Typically, we put a finish on them, like here's one great he wanted for us. It's got a nice finish on it. The tables are small because places these folks live, they're small places. So there's information on the website. There's a plan for a coffee table, end table, and a nightstand. And this is the fourth piece of service. So get involved. It's a lot of fun. Somebody asks me how much wood should I take? I say, how much fun do you want to have? Think about it. Very worthy cause. Thank you.
All right. Okay, next up is show and tell. If you have anything in show and tell, please stand over here so we can mic you up for this. And while you're doing that, here's my show and tell. So the last couple of months I've been telling you about this tabletop that I'm making for an outside table. I got it finished. This was really neat. This was the first time I really did something that large using that epoxy. And you read the instructions, and it tells you on there, after you put it on there, leave it go for about 5 minutes, and then from about 5 minutes to 15 minutes, take a heating thing and just go over it, and it'll break all of the air bubbles. I did it for a half an hour, and I still had air bubbles. And then when I got done with it, a couple months ago, I bought a laser engraver, and I had to engrave my name on the back saying I made it. But that was really fun. And it was done out of scrapped wood. I took a class from Bill, and this is the leftover ash, and then I was at Woodcraft, and they had this pieces of mahogany for $1 a pound. So I bought a bunch. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I got it, and it turned out pretty good. All right, next.
I just want to reiterate how important this project is for Home Sweet Home. It is one of the places that I started volunteering at last year, and I can't tell you how appreciative the clients are that come in and select not only our stuff, but all the other items that they have at that location. So if you have items at home that you need to downsize with, it's a great place, and they will pick up. So check them out. But my first item I want to show is not one that I did. It's one of our Christmas toy items that Bill Muth is making for us. And the doll as well. Well, he didn't make the doll, but he put the doll in there. And then we have one of our other Christmas elves that are making blankets that are going to go in this little carriage as well. So all kinds of different things. If you think you're interested in joining us every couple of Fridays in the shop, here's an opportunity for you. Then, I guess it was in 2019, I took the, the epoxy resin, the river, blah, blah, blah class, and made a whole bunch of things for Christmas gifts. And then I had a girlfriend ask me for a couple of more. So I got busy, and I went to Rockler and bought some walnut. And this is one of the ones I made. It is one where I added the epoxy on the top to give it the shiny. Usually I just put a satin poly on it. So this one I really like, but when I went to drill the holes, I drilled them from the back, and I countersinked them with my drill bit. And I know you can't see this from afar, but I guess it heated up too much and melted that epoxy a little bit. So all I could do was just cut it off and then drill from the top, and they turned out okay. Here's another one I did in green, and it just has a clear satin poly, and it is, I like it too. Then I thought, okay, what about something else? So I found this one that I had done a couple of years ago. It's pine. I never really liked it totally, so I put a semi-gloss poly top on it. And I like it much better. It also has a mission oak stain on the pine. So then there's that one, just needs handles. And then this is one that I made. You've heard me say I jump in with 4 feet. So I ordered the special container to make these, to make your pour in. So you put it in, you do your pour, and then I couldn't get the sucker out. So even though they say, you know, just a few whacks and it comes out. Well, it didn't. So I had to drill a hole in one end and put a screw in, then yank that sucker out. So this one's a little shorter than planned as well. But what was really interesting about this one is I did the epoxy, and what I used was what he told us to use from the class, which is not the deep dish stuff. And this was a wide pour, and I had a nice design going down the middle, and all of a sudden the chemical reaction starts, and this thing started steaming, and I had to put a fan on it to try to cool it down. But the design that it ended up with, these spots, these bubbles, I have to say I like much better. So this is one where I also put the semi-gloss on the wood, and then I'm doing my best to polish and polish and polish and polish and polish and polish, and I'm still polishing.
I'm Keith Lasanta, and a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I were walking around in the neighborhood getting some exercise, and someone had cut off a couple of logs and had them out on their trash to go in the recycle. And I thought that it was a very pretty grain pattern in it. So I picked up one of them and cut it into pieces. And then I turned a candlestick out of the one, and you can see the grain patterns in it. I also turned a little coaster out of it that you could set a glass on. And then in one of the catalogs that we had, there was a thing that you could buy that you could make a lamp. Actually, the ones that they had, and we saw a couple of these in one of the stores when we were walking around today, that are that tall, and so they're twice that size. But I just took a glass tumbler you can get at the dollar store. You can put a tea light in it.
How are you? My name is, again, Paul Kennedy, and this is one of the instruments that my students built. And again, they have as much knowledge as I do. Last time I did woodworking was in 1985. But I wanted to introduce woodworking back into the high school and maybe do cross-curriculum with a music teacher. And so this is their starting point, and I figure if they can, what knowledge they have from here, they can build pretty much any instrument that they want to. This was all raw wood, and they measured out and cut all the frets and how with calculations that they needed to do, came up with their own designs, and it plays pretty well. But if anybody has any suggestions or anything like that, the high school is given me a 15 by 30 area where I can do more creative woodworking work and work that into art and music maybe. So thank you very much.
I would add for Paul's benefit that any of his students that are 16 years old can join and have use of the shop as long, from 16 through 17, they have to have a parent or a guardian with them while they're in the shop. I'm not here to talk about what I've done. Our speaker tonight is Christina Berwin, who is the teacher from Rockwood that we've been doing this program with for 2 or 3 years. And what I have tonight is some of the toys that we have been building, that you have been building. There are about a dozen members that have participated in this. And we make kits that the kids then assemble, and members of the guild help supervise that installation. Some of it has been fun to build, a little more complicated. You're welcome to come up and take a look. There are a couple more down on the floor that I didn't have room for on the bench. But it's been a very interesting program. We're going to see where it goes from here, because Christina got a much deserved promotion, and she's not going to be teaching this class this fall. So we'll see what the new teacher has in store for us, and if the program's going to go forward. If the program does not go forward, I've got about 100 kits that I'm going to be looking for some volunteers to help assemble so we can donate them to the hospitals. Thank you.
Good evening. Charles Schrock. Kind of a takeoff of the program to build the tables. Well, we get the wood for nothing. I thought maybe you might like to see what they build the barrels out of that we're getting the scraps from. These are 2 pieces of barrel stock that they've tongue and grooved, and some of these barrels are as tall as 10 feet, 10 foot in diameter as well. So there's a lot of good oak that goes into it. It's all quarter sawn, and as a result, well, I wound up with a bunch of sharts. When you do these tables, the pieces we cut in the bundles are 40 inches long, and if your tops are 2 feet long and the legs are about 2 feet long, you wind up with a bunch of pieces that are, give or take, a foot long. So what am I going to do with that? So I glued a couple of these pieces together for a base, for a bowl, and then I just took all my sharts and did a segmented bowl. So it kind of used up what was left over, and now I've got even shorter pieces left over. So thank you.
My name's Bill Grimes. What I want to show is some work that I did at John C. Campbell under Jeff and Nick, 2 of the instructors there. It was around enhancing your turning. And a brief preamble, this is my very expensive stencil. And this is a typical stencil, and you basically paint in the middle, and you could imagine putting an Easter egg in the middle and using a jet sprayer and painting it. This, of course, is the reverse. You can put this on and paint around it. But those are needed to understand my stencil. So this is a butterfly plate using that approach. Basically, we applied the stencil to the edge of the board, and I painted the butterflies using airjet sprayer. And as you can see, you know you've done well when the instructor stands up and starts taking close-up pictures of your butterflies. And wait a second, there's this dragonfly. Where's he going? This is the back. And what the technique that you use on the back is you basically apply those pieces like this. Well, actually, you just gently spray random patterns on the back, and then you apply one of these to the various places, and then you coat the rest dark and with negative, covering the negative space. So this is the back of my platter, and this is my front. Pardon, I do a few things beyond wood turning. Number one, in support of my lathe work, I made this box. It has storage for the wood underneath. It has storage for the tools above it. The top, of course, can be used to lay down some tools. A few that are hanging there for easy access. And I hold this up next to my lathe and I can easily access the various tools. Of course, the problem with any shop is that dust accumulates on everything. But the tool holder is actually designed to be removed. And if you'll notice, it kind of fits under the lathe. When I lower those wheels, I can actually push the box underneath my lathe, pick up my lathe, and move it around my shop. So that's one of the things that I've done since I got here. We recently acquired a CNC machine that was basically taking up most of the table that I do most of my work on. So I built this little cabinet for it with a fold-down bench to the side, a little holder for all my bits, a drawer to store miscellaneous items, and wood underneath. They're included in the CNC unit some shields. The dust just basically falls down into the box underneath the machine, and when it's in operation, that's how I contain the dust in my shop. So that's my CNC work, and what you saw us cutting out there were stamps for batiking. And I recently acquired a bandsaw in support of that. Bandsaws are one of those things you want to be able to move around the shop, but you also want to basically be able to have completely sturdy when it's there. And for less than $20, I put together a little portable platform that I could very easily use to move my bandsaw around, and I just thought I'd show that to everybody here.
Thanks everybody for the show and tell. Everything was great. Coming up next is our featured speaker, Dr. Christina Berwin. Come on down.
Hello, everybody. I am Christina Berwin. I work at the Center, or I did work at the Center for Creative Learning, which is a gifted and talented program in the Rockwood School District, and I worked with fourth graders. This coming fall, I am transitioning to, we call it administrative intern at the elementary level in Rockwood, but it's an assistant principal position at a different school. So I'm not going to leave Bill hanging. I'm going to figure out some way to use all the kits that so many of you have already been trying to put together. But what I'd like to do this evening is just share a little bit of what I was doing with the kids in my classroom and how that tied into me connecting with Bill and the Woodworkers Guild and making the toys that were then donated to children all over St. Louis. So the Center for Creative Learning, the teachers there write all of our own curriculum. So we can find an area of passion for ourselves or something that we think would be an area of passion for the students that we're going to work with and create a unit around that. The students come to us 1 day a week and they're with me for 1 semester before moving on to another teacher. So I have about 16 days with each group of students that I work with. And, oh, sorry, go back to, there you go, thank you. So one of the things that with my unit, which is called Ideation of Play, is we go through the design thinking process. So this process is not something that's unique to my unit, it's just a way of thinking if you're trying to solve some type of problem or come out with some type of new or creative product at the end. So my students learn this process and we use it over and over throughout our unit. When we're at the empathizing stage, what we're doing is trying to experience and learn what it's like to feel and be in somebody else's shoes. When we move on to the define stage, we're using the information that we gathered in our empathizing stage, and we want to be able to complete the sentence of who needs what because why, and they need to be able to fill that in with their knowledge that they gained. Then from there, they start moving on to the ideate phase where we're working on fluency of thought, and the students are coming up with as many ideas as possible on their own that would meet that definition that they said they needed to. So in order to get there, the kids need to learn a lot about child development in my class. So they do get a quick crash course on Piaget's stages of development so they can start to connect what a child actually needs at certain stages of development to continue developing the way humans are kind of supposed to develop. So when you're at the sensory motor stage, your body actually needs a lot of things that you put in your mouth, that you lick, that you touch, that you stick in your ears, all of those types of things. As you move on and your cognitive development begins to enhance and grow, you need more complicated and complex things that you're interacting with. So once they know that, they can move on to the next slide. Maybe.
One more.
There we go. And they start learning about the toy industry categories. So the Toy Industry Association uses these categories to divide different toys. So how would they be able to have conversations when they're saying something belongs in the musical toy category? They're kind of all on the same page. So students will learn about the different toy categories and start to categorize toys that we have in class and kind of just become more familiar with what those categories are. And then after they do that, they move on to, thank you, to the, this is the play pyramid. So this slide and the next slide actually refer to some research that's out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, so MIT, and they have graciously allowed me to use their research with my fourth graders. And they actually, well, they're obviously a great engineering school, they have a toy design class that a lot of their engineers take, and this is what they use with those students. And I brought it into my classroom because it allows myself and my students to think about toys and play and how they connect in a very different way. So through the play pyramid, students are starting to figure out how one plays with toys. Do they play with it in a sensory way? Is it a construction? Is it challenge? Challenge, for some reason, part of it's not showing up, but that's more of a mental or a physical way of engaging with a particular object. Or is it in a fantasy sense where it's like a role play type thing? And they use the pyramid as a structure very purposefully because toys do not fall into just one of these areas typically. They're somewhere on a continuum, and they might fall in more than one or halfway in between some. So that pyramid structure is really important for the students to understand. And then the next slide is also from MIT, and it's the scales of play. And this one is starting to bring in, what does the toy need? So what did the maker of the toy intend whenever they created this toy? So for example, when they look at involvement, is it something like a TV where it would just be completely passive and you're just sitting there getting something from it? Or is it over on the other side of the continuum more like a soccer ball, and in order to use a soccer ball in the way it was intended, you actually need to be moving and doing something with that ball and interacting with it. So students start to, during that empathize stage, analyze a lot of toys, experience a lot of toys, and start to put them on a scale of 1 to 5 in each of these categories so that they're saying, okay, I feel that the maker of this toy intended it more for females. Here's why. I think the maker of this toy intended it to be more mental. Here's why. Here's what I'm noticing about these toys as I'm interacting with them. And the next slide. So now we're going to get into some pictures of my students. Most of what you're going to see here is the students analyzing pull toys that are typically for younger students or younger children. So here they are just experiencing those toys. We've got different ones from pull toys to push toys. They're trying to figure out how do they work, why do they work that way. They're starting to record observations such as one of the things they always notice with this one is they're always bright and colorful. Why do they have so many colors? Why are they not dark in color? They notice that if there's a string on them, typically the string is short, and they start to wonder why. What does that have to do with the age group that this might be for? So they start to ask a lot of questions as they're going through that empathize stage. And then this is where they're collecting data. So as students are analyzing those toys, they have their computers with them, and they are filling out Google Forms where they are marking what they think all of the toys are in the toy industry categories, in the Piaget stages of development, where they think this toy should be for the scales of play and the play pyramid. And then, because it's on a Google form, I get all that wonderful data, and I'm able to say, let's look at the graphs that our Google Forms created for us, and what does that tell us that we as a class feel we learned from these toys? And then we put it up on a chart. Oh, sorry. There you go. Thank you. So that we can see from our class data what we found out. So for our pull toys, this particular group of students found that the 3 would be for that level of involvement, where I was talking about passive being the TV and the soccer ball being highly active. So when they did pull toys, it was kind of a 3. You could just sit there and play with it, but I think it's intended to have some level of movement to it that, to get the most out of it. And they go through and do those, and again, this is a snapshot of what the data showed us. And from here, we start to have conversations. Were we good scientists? Did we actually collect valid and reliable data? Does our data match what we think it should match based on what we experienced? Next slide. Then we define, so we go back to that who needs what, because why. And here the student came up with infants and toddlers need pull toys because they need to learn cause and effect, because it helps them get strong and stronger and helps them to navigate their environment. So one of the things they noticed as they were playing with the pull toys is that if they get stuck on something, or if they go too fast around a corner, things get stuck. And they're like, oh, kids would really learn cause and effect. They would realize it gets stuck, I have to back up, I have to go about it a different way. All those things that young children are learning by playing with this type of toy that they don't even know that they're actually learning, but is super important to their development. This stage here is the ideate stage. So now that they have decided here's what the criteria are for making a new pull toy that has not yet been invented. On the right, you see a student's ideas that they came up with on their own. And then on the left, you see students conferring and conferencing with each other as they're discussing their ideas. So the student on the left, maybe this is his paper, and he's sharing what his ideas are. These are meant to be very, very quick sketches so that the student can verbally elaborate with their partner. And then the two of them start to code their ideas. They work together and they say, you know what? I think it's an R, a rational idea, something that knowing the materials and resources and time that we have available and other constraints we might have, we could actually make this come to life. Maybe we want to code it delightful, which is where we think our client would really like it. For this age group we're looking at, I think they would really enjoy this toy. Or they could code it as darling, which means if partner number 1 over here was the one that came up with the ideas, partner number 2 gets to decide which one is the most darling idea. It's the idea that that person actually liked the most. And then the last one, the code that they could use, is a long shot. And this is something that they really enjoy. They think it's a great idea, but it's just not possible due to whatever reason. Maybe materials, maybe time, maybe they just don't get along with their partner very well and they don't think they'll get it done. They don't have to code everything, but they do need to code the majority of the ideas that they come up with. Oftentimes kids come up with way more than 4. Once they have an idea that they've agreed on, they move on to the first part of the prototype stage, where they are coming up with a far more detailed plan. And when they get to this part, they have to get through me, which means their plan has to be detailed enough that they've thought through the sizes, the measurements, the materials to actually be able to make it. I learned really early on that when you let kids just completely create whatever they want, they come up with amazing things, but I ran out of materials by the end of the first week. So we need to slow down that process and really help them think through the why whenever they're trying to design their toy. So once they have their prototype approved, they move on to on the right there, where they're starting to assemble their prototype. Thank you. Here they are continuing to work. Some of the materials that I have in my classroom, we have tons of cardboard and every kind of clean trash you can imagine. We also have a lot of materials from a company called Teacher Geek, which are plastic pieces that you see over here. There's a lot of different types of wheels, dowel rods, base plates with holes in them that they can assemble in lots of different ways, little gears, things like that that the kids can use. They cut the dowel rods to the measurements that they need and things like that. Oftentimes hammers come into play as well. And then next slide. Continuing to build, they're using the Teacher Geek materials here, but they decided to screw them together to see if they could create the base that they were looking for. And then on the right-hand side, just some more students working together with those same types of materials. And I have to black out their faces for privacy reasons. So here we're starting to get into students on the testing stage. So we have a student here who has, actually it's his, has created a pull toy where when you pulled it, the toy was being pulled, and the girl that is holding it is actually providing him with feedback. And he's writing down 3 ways that he's getting feedback. Whenever they're getting feedback from someone else, they always ask, what do you like about the toy? What do you wish about the toy? And what do you wonder about the toy? And that helps the kids who are providing feedback stay more focused, as well as the students getting feedback. Once they have that feedback, and they're getting some more there on the right, once they have that feedback, the students go back to their partners and they say, okay, do we agree with the information that we found? Do we disagree? What do we think about it? What changes do we need to make to our toy? What improvements do we need to make? And they continue that prototyping stage of the process. So this particular toy that the kids built is a pull toy, and as being pulled, they created a little basketball there on a dowel rod, and as the wheels turned, the basketball went up and down, so it looked like the little person was dribbling. And then the next one is a type of train that some of the kids created, and they also used a wheel as a way of making something happen, because that was one of the things they realized about all pull toys, is that when you pull it, something is always happening because the wheels are turning. So they realized that for them to create an actual pull toy, they also had to have that same type of motion with the toys that they would create. So they, on that one, they attached it to the wheel. There's a little door there, and when the door opens, you see Elmo inside. And this one, really can't see anything without the video, but there's actually a fish inside of it, a little fish on a flap, and the students have attached a wheel on the inside. So this one, well, I know that it kind of looks like a whole bunch of just stuff taped together. The thought process behind this is pretty complex, especially on this one where they have the 4 wheels on the outside, and they realize that if they put a wheel on the inside and have a thin enough piece of paper, when the wheel would turn, they could put something on the end of that paper and it would flop over and the fish looks like it's coming out of the water. But it took a lot of time to figure out what weight of paper they needed to be able to do that in order to make it actually turn and not get stuck. And then here, the students are at the end of our cycle and our process, and they have to justify all of their reasoning and all of their thinking that went into their toy. So they have to say, okay, as a class, we said that on the scales of play for involvement, it had to be a 3. Did ours meet that criteria? Yes or no? Why or why not? What is my justification? So they have to go through all that criteria and truly justify their toy to determine, is it actually a pull toy based on what we decided should be a pull toy? So that's what those students are working on there. Just a couple of pictures of some of the ones that they created. On this one, as they pulled it, the butterfly moved. And on this one, the wings actually kind of slightly moved up and down based on how they were attached. And that brings us to what I'm doing here. So my kids understand the design thinking process, and what I wanted to do though was make it more real life. They understand what they're making is truly a prototype and not something that they could go and sell. It can't be on the shelf at Walmart, it can't be sold on Amazon. So how do we bring them a real life experience? So I was able to connect with Bill, who was gracious enough and patient enough to work with me and figure this out, and we decided the kids could use this design thinking process in a little bit of a different way and be able to create something to donate to someone else. So that's where the wooden toys came into play with my unit.
Could you say that again?
Ooh,
My apologies.
sorry. So one of the things that I go through with them before the volunteers come in and work with the kids is, why do students need wooden toys? Why do kids need wooden toys? So that my students and I have a great discussion about why they would be needed. And then after we have that discussion, we move on to the benefits of playing with a wooden toy. Obviously, the kids are generating these ideas typically before I show them what research has shown. And some of the things that probably all of you in here know is that playing with wooden toys encourages imagination in a way that playing with a lot of the new toys, electronic toys in particular, do not encourage. And it also it builds that tactile response because it has a weight to them that things made out of plastic do not have, and that's really important for young children. And oftentimes they're less distracting, but in a way that, again, encourages that imagination. Then we talk about what are some of the benefits of making wooden toys. So as we're going through that with the students, or as I am, we're talking about all of the things listed here on the slide that a lot of the students that I work with are amazing builders of Lego. They can build everything and anything out of Lego. And we correlate what we're going to be doing with the wooden toys to building with Legos, but with an instruction set that they've never seen before, almost like it's written in another language. So they understand that they're going to have to do a lot of trial and error in order to make these toys actually connect the way they're supposed to. Then after we have discussed that, we go through our define stage of the who needs what, because, why, and we talk about it in two ways for this one. Who plays with the toy? So the children that play with the toy need to play with wooden toys because it helps develop imagination, they're durable, encourages interaction with the toys, and those who build toys, fourth graders need to build toys because it gives them a chance to demonstrate things such as their ability to follow directions and assemble a toy according to plans, develop problem-solving skills and critical thinking, and it fosters strong communication skills as they interact with others and the volunteers who come in to work with us as well. Here are a few pictures of the students at work, as well as some members of the Guild. And this has evolved quite a bit from the very first time Bill and I worked together, which was the year before COVID shut down the school where I was working. And we now have some pictures that help the kids out with identifying the parts and pieces. We learned early on that they just didn't know certain words that we kind of took for granted. We had kids who didn't know what a Q-tip was. So just little things like that that we learned along the way that we needed to front load to be able to make this experience beneficial for everybody involved. But the number of parts and pieces, especially for this particular one, this one took the longest for our students to build, and Bill was gracious enough to work with them side by side, but they were able to figure it out, and they could tell that, you know what, as I follow the directions, it's not really working the way it's supposed to. It's not looking like the model or example that I'm given. I need to take something apart, back up, and restart. And on the right, those students were able to work fairly independently on what they were making that day, which was the trolley. These are some of our finished toys, and I wish that I could show you their faces because they are beaming. They are so excited, not only that they accomplished making the toys and that the toys look pretty much like the examples, but that they were going to be donated to children in long-term care situations in hospitals and things like that. So it really meant a lot to them to be able to give back to others. Then Bill was nice enough to always bring race cars so the kids got to take something home for themselves. And here's just a couple of pictures of what the kids were making with their race cars. We've got, yes, always fun with the race cars. And then just a group of one of the kids, or a group of kids with their finished race cars as well. And I talked really fast, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who has helped with this project, especially to Bill, who has gone back and forth with me several times and hauls in an immense amount of things in order to help the kids do this. over and over and over, because again, I work with kids a semester at a time. That means that I had a group in the fall, and then I would have another group in the spring, so it's a lot of toys that you guys were creating and a lot of time on your part. So I really appreciate it, and thank you for letting me come here this evening and kind of explain what I do and how this tied into it. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to field those when there's time. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go, there's a free table back over here in the corner with some free stuff on it, not a whole lot. And we'll see everybody next month.